From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And of course, that is the case now as we are well into November. Lots going on, but you can't ignore the NFL or the Minnesota Vikings. They're off to an 8-2 start. Well, I don't think anybody can right now in this market. The Vikings just completed a two-game trip to the South. It wasn't exactly General Sherman leaving scorched earth in his wake, but they got 2 wins, and now they'll be back in the Midwest Sunday against the Chicago Bears. So could they have played better football? Absolutely. Could they have lost either of those games? Absolutely. In fact, they need to send an early Christmas gift to Clete Blakeman and that officiating crew that worked the Tennessee game. That may have been the worst refereed game I've seen in recent history.
Yeah, well, and they did throw 13 flags at Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is one of the most penalized teams in the NFL, and the officials probably knew it going in and said, man, we're going to have some flag fun tonight. It's going to be flag football, and it was. But I think you're right. I think that there were some costly calls against the Tennessee Titans that probably shouldn't have happened, particularly the hit on Jordan Addison in the end zone. A couple of those illegal formation calls against the Prince, the old lineman.
Yeah, not the singer.
No, not the lineman. No, he's no longer with us. And I don't believe that the old lineman's going to be around much longer as far as being on that roster.
He came off the practice squad.
Yeah, well.
And he cost him a touchdown.
Yeah, he got called for it 3 times, twice in a row, 2 plays in a row, and then a little bit later as well. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, man, you better figure this thing out. And, of course, as soon as they called him on the third one, he got yanked out of the game. But you're right. I mean, I think that, the officiating is just so inconsistent. And there were a couple of calls that went against the Vikings, too, that were bad as well. But I think that the brunt of the bad calls. So, Viking fans, all the complaining you've been doing about your team getting thrown under the bus by the officials for years and years, you can rest assured that didn't happen this past Sunday against Tennessee.
There is no purple conspiracy. The Zebras don't have it in for the Minnesota Vikings. It might be the Tennessee Titans. And I think the bigger picture for the NFL is it's an over-officiated league right now. It's micromanaged by the referees. I've never, ever heard a fan walking into the many venues I've gone to over the years watching NFL games. Never once have I heard a fan say, who's refereeing today? Can't wait to see who the Zebras are. They need to be invisible. But it's not just the referees, Wally. They're being given a set of rules that, in my opinion, are flawed. First of all, let a guy jam the receiver 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Get rid of 5 yards. Let him play football again. But beyond that, I think the rules that they've put in place the last 5 to 10 years are bogus, a lot of them. And so you not only have the referees micromanaging the game, but it's those bean counters in New York City who make these rule changes in the offseason. I wonder if any of them have ever put on pads.
Oh, I doubt that. I'll tell you what, you mentioned the play about getting jammed 5 yards off. So the Justin Jefferson call, and that was a third down, if I believe.
It was a sack.
And it was a sack, and, it could have been very costly for the Vikings, but it turns out that they call illegal contact, so the defender touched Jefferson about 5.5 yards, maybe 6 yards downfield instead of 5, and that was costly for Tennessee, too. So there were several big calls that went Minnesota's way, so don't kid yourself. And again, the Vikings won the football games, and as you've said and we've talked about, you don't throw any wins back in the National Football League, but one of two things. They either are playing down to their competition, because Jacksonville got railroaded out of town playing the Detroit Lions, and the Vikings barely beat Jacksonville. And then the Tennessee Titans, minus several of their key players, didn't look very good either, but they hung in there with the Vikings, and, without those penalties that you mentioned, they probably would have made this even closer or won the football game. So hopefully the Vikings can take it up a notch, because I don't think they're going to be able to play down to the Bears. I think the Bears, they're a sleeping giant in a way that they should have beaten the Packers. They had that call, the field goal blocked at the end of the game, and then they could have beaten Washington a few weeks ago on that Hail Mary. They've had some clunkers, but they have also had some pretty good football games.
Yeah, and the Chicago Bears right now, I mean, they had a dagger defeat to Green Bay. They've now lost 11 in a row to the Packers. And they thought finally we're going to get this victory over the kryptonite known as the Green Bay Packers. And like you said, it was a blocked field goal. The Hail Mary loss to Washington, that set them on their current spiral. They've been going downhill ever since.
Right.
And because that should never happen, and the cornerback made a huge mental mistake, not getting back into position. So the Bears are in desperation mode at 4-6. And one thing we know when it's a game within the NFC North, intra-divisional games, throw away the records. It doesn't matter. I think the Chicago Bears are playing for their playoff lives right now. There's still a long shot to make it, but there's a lot of football left. And probably the one good thing the Bears can take away from the loss to Green Bay, Caleb Williams took them down and gave them the lead. Good quarterbacks are measured in fourth quarter drives, right? Comeback drives. Well, he seemingly did that and put him in a position to win.
No doubt.
Then they had the block. So Caleb Williams got a little better against Green Bay. We'll see what he does against Minnesota. I think the default for the Vikings all season has been their defense, with the exception of the Lions and Rams loss. But their defense is pretty good. It bailed them out in Jacksonville. I really feel like the defense bailed them out in Tennessee, along with the Zebras. So you got to get Brian Flores in that group.
No
Harrison
question.
Smith, Jonathan Goddard, Andrew Van Ginkel. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, they really are. All right, we're going to talk more National Football League, more purple, with a Hall of Famer, Warren Moon, coming up next.
All right, this is 10K Takes, your purple ticket.
On any given day in New Ulm, come see what's brewing on any given day in New Ulm.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya? Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. We continue talking Minnesota Vikings and the purple, of course, this weekend taking on the Chicago Bears in Chicago. But joining us now is Warren Moon, the former Viking quarterback and, of course, Hall of Famer. Warren, the Sam Darnold grade sheet, what does it look like to you right now? I think for the most part, it's been positive here in Minnesota. But what have you seen? What do you like? And what do you think of his performances so far?
I think he got off to a really good start, and that's something that's always important when you're starting with a new team. I think he really gained a lot of confidence for that year that he spent there in San Francisco, being under Kyle Shanahan, and he was in some bad situations before that. And I think that's why his NFL career got off to a bad start. But it seems like he's kind of re-erected himself, and he's also got much more confidence now, and doing a really good job for the Vikings, spreading the ball around to a lot of different people. It's not all Justin Jefferson, and he's got a lot of good players to throw the football to, and they have a decent running game. So he's doing all right. He had a stretch there of a couple of games where he was starting to throw the ball to the other team, kind of reverting back to some of the bad habits that he had before. But I think he's cleaned that up, and they're back on the winning track.
Warren, Justin Jefferson is out of the blocks in historic fashion. Certainly he's one of the elite receivers of this era. How good is he, though? Because the rules have certainly changed. They're skewed toward the offense now more than ever. But when you look at this guy, do you say to yourself, boy, it would be fun to throw him spirals?
Yeah, the passing game is no question about it. Dominated football probably the last 10 years or so. And Justin's been one of the better receivers in the league the last 3 or 4 years since he's been in the league. Not only does he catch a lot of balls, but he makes some spectacular catches. and he also makes spectacular runs after the catch. So he's the total package for a receiver. He's tall, he's long, he's got really decent speed. He's really good after the catch as far as yak yards are concerned, and he has a great catch radius. So you don't have to throw the perfect ball to this guy. You throw it anywhere in his area, and he's going to make a play on the football. So I would say he's one of the top 3 or 4 best receivers in this league, no question about it. At any given time, he can be the best. But I'd say, with all the good receivers they have in this league right now, I look at him as one of the top 3 or 4 in the league.
And how important is that, or has that been, do you think, for Sam Darnold? Because, as you already mentioned, he's able to spread the ball around to a Jordan Addison, to T.J. Hawkinson, and whoever. And I would think that's has a lot to do with the fact that they really have to pay attention to J.J.
Yeah, it always helps when you have good talent around you for any quarterback. I always say the quarterback position, probably one of the most difficult positions to play in all of team sports, but it's also one of the most dependent positions in team sports, because you have to have everything working for you. You have to have talent around you. You have to have good protection up front. All those things to make your job a little bit easier. But there's no question you still have to come up and make the reads, make the right throws, put the right air on the ball when it needs it, put the right zip on the ball when it needs it, make the right decisions. All those different things that a quarterback does. But you definitely have to have good talent around you, and he does have that. And I think that's what makes his job a little bit easier.
And Warren, I know you still study the game closely. I would guess you're very happy for Jared Goff, who's elite. After being a top draft pick by the Rams, but then they peddled him to Detroit. He was supposed to be a bridge quarterback for the Lions, but they're rolling now. And then a guy you know very well, Russell Wilson, is having a revival in Pittsburgh. Are you happy for both those guys?
Yeah, I am, because they're both good people, first of all. And you always root for good people, guys that are team players, guys that are good in their community, all those different things that they do. They're both, family type guys as well. And I've known Russell since he came into the league. So I've seen a lot of his highs as far as taking 2 teams to Super Bowls. And I've seen some of his lows as well. So Jarrett, the same way. I had a chance to talk to him in the off season, and he's really excited about the situation that he's in right now. And his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, does a great job of coordinating their offense and is really honed into what Jarrett does best. As far as the play action pass, he's a really good pocket passer. He moves very well in the pocket. He's not a guy that's going to beat you outside of the pocket with his legs or anything like that, but he moves it well enough in the pocket and does a great job off the play action fake of throwing the ball, especially in the middle of the field where a lot of quarterbacks don't like to throw the football. He does it as good as anybody. So, he is really playing at the top of his game right now, and their team is playing really well. And I think they have all 3 facets going at the same time, special teams, offense and defense. A lot of people thought they were going to take a step back after defensive end. I can't think of his name right now.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson, yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson, yes, after he got hurt. But that defense has really stepped up, and they're still putting pressure on the quarterback. And because their offense puts so much pressure on you to score, that makes it an easier job for their defense. They're not seeing as much run. They're seeing teams having to try and keep up with them scoring the football. So it makes most teams that they play against one-dimensional, where they're still able to do what they want to do offensively, running and throwing the football.
Well, they certainly are playing the Detroit Lions, that is, like an elite team right now. And clearly in the NFC, and it's the Vikings' chief rival along with Green Bay to try and win this NFC North. Do you think that the Vikings match up with them? I mean, they lost to them a close game in Minneapolis. They still go to Detroit here in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's far from over. We're only 10 weeks in as far as the Vikings are concerned. But how do you see the Vikings and the Lions as far as a matchup as we go down the stretch?
Well, like you said, they had a close matchup in Minneapolis, and I think it'll be close again in Detroit. They're both dome teams, so it's just going to be how the Vikings handle the emotions and the noise that they play with at their stadium. But as far as the elements or anything like that, that's not going to be a problem in this game. It's going to be about who executes the best, and like I said, who can deal with the noise and the distraction. The Vikings are going to really have to get more pressure on Jared Goff this next time, because he's a guy that shows if you can get pressure in his face and make him have to move, he's not as good a quarterback. But if he has a clean pocket like he usually has, and that's why they play action pass so much, because they get much better protection, much more solid protection when they play action pass. They don't have to send as many people into the route. Your secondary has to really be able to hone in on those 3 or 4 guys that they're going to send out, as opposed to maybe sending out 5 guys like most teams do. So pressure is going to be something that's important the next time they play them, to try and get him off his mark and make him uncomfortable.
Warren, I think it's kind of laughable, but there's a narrative out there now. Buffalo knocked off the perfect Kansas City Chiefs last week. Josh Allen with a fabulous run to seal the deal. And now people are putting Allen and the Bills ahead of Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And I love Josh Allen, but doesn't that have to happen in the postseason before we anoint Allen ahead of the Magic Man?
No question about it. I mean, I think he's 3 or 4-1 against Kansas City during the regular season. So he's always beaten the Chiefs in the regular season. That hasn't been a problem. But it's when you get to the playoffs, like last year, they went into Buffalo and beat Buffalo in the playoffs at home, at Buffalo's home. So, yeah, until they beat them in the playoffs and are able to advance and move on and get to a Super Bowl, that's just all a lot of talk right now. I don't think a lot of people thought Kansas City was going to go undefeated the whole season. I definitely didn't think it, because it's so hard to do. I think only a couple of teams have done it in the regular season, New England and Miami. So, I thought they were going to get knocked off at some point, especially the way they were playing. Every game was tight. Every game was a one-score game. And I think that's the best thing that could have happened to them right now, is losing the game at this point in the season. I think it gives them an extra motivation. It takes that pressure off of them of trying to win the perfect season. And I think they'll refocus and play better going down the stretch. But Buffalo is playing very well. They've kind of reorganized their team. They shipped a lot of people off and made a lot of changes offensively. They're spreading the ball around better. They're running the ball better, and their defense is playing well. So they're probably playing as good as anybody in the league right now, other than Detroit. And good for them, but there's still 7 games left to play, so let's see how the season finishes out.
All right, I want to ask you one last question, bring you back to the NFC North. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. What do you like about Jordan Love? It seems to be good Jordan Love and bad Jordan Love, depending on when you tune in and watch the Packers. But what are your thoughts on him and the Packers this year?
I really like the young talent that they have on that team, and I think everybody saw that last year, the way they finished the year, getting all the way to the divisional round of the playoffs, and possibly could have got to the NFC Championship game if they played a little bit better and they make a couple of more plays in the playoff game against San Francisco. But this is a team that I think their window is still wide open. And if it doesn't happen for them this year, they're going to be somebody to really have to deal with the next 3 or 4 years, because they're a very young team. You got to remember, this is Jordan Love's first year, starting the whole season. Well, last year he did start the whole season and really finished strong. He got hurt early this season, so he's kind of been up and down because of that. And as he learns that he has to take better care of the football, he's only going to be a better quarterback. The thing I like about him is he is a risk taker, and he will try and make some throws that a lot of other quarterbacks won't make. But I think he'll start to figure that out as he gets a little bit more mature into his contract. Into his career, that he can't take some of those risks that he was making before, because he sees how it hurts his team. But he's very talented, and he has a lot of young receivers around him that are all very talented. This is a team that's going to be around for a while. Like I said, this division, because Detroit's not an old team either, and neither is Chicago. And this is going to be a division that's going to be tough here for, I think, the next 3 or 4 years. It's going to be very, very competitive.
Yeah, no question. Warren, we appreciate you.
Thank you, Warren,
filling us in and spending some time with us, and we'll check in with you again later on in the season.
All right, guys, have a great Thanksgiving, and talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Yep, same to you.
For sure. He is Warren Moon, former Vikings quarterback and, of course, Hall of Fame. We're back here on 10,000 Takes after this time out. Stay with us.
You can visit llcoolj.info to understand what the government grants really hit for. You can visit llcoolj.org.com to make sense. Whatever you sell, the government's buying it. You don't need an LLC or an S corporation. We the people. We already pledged allegiance to this nation. It's up to us if the bell toll of freedom rings. That's word from Olivia's child, Sammy's favorite sibling, and I'm out.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
On any given day in New Ulm, come see what's brewing on any given day in New Ulm.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, and I know we're in the middle of football season, obviously, and NBA and NHL, but some baseball news this past week. Our guy, Torrey Hunter, former Minnesota Twin, who spent the first part of his career and then the very last year of his career in a Twins uniform, is on the Hall of Fame ballot again. Now, he has been on the last 5 years. He got a little over 7% of the votes last year, so he's precariously close to falling off the ballot. You have to have at least 5% to stay on. He was a little over 7%. But he's got some decent numbers that at least should give him consideration for continuing to be on the ballot, and maybe someday he gets in. He's only one of 5 MLB players in history to hit 350 home runs, 150 stolen bases, 450 doubles, 2,400 hits, and then, of course, he had 9 gold gloves as well. So, I mean, he's got the numbers that would certainly keep him in competition. I guess it just depends where you land on, how that measures up against everybody else.
Yeah, who else is on the ballot? Obviously that sometimes is a dictating factor.
No doubt.
I know the 9 gold gloves. I mean, when he played center field, he was as good as anybody in his era. He had longevity too. He not only played for Minnesota twice, he played for the LA Angels and Detroit. He had a positive impact on both of those clubs. Made 5 All-Star teams. And I think the other thing, if you just look at the numbers, yeah, he's on the bubble, I guess you would say. But if you look at the overall total package, here's a guy that connected with the media, the fans, his teammates, his coaches, the opposition. I remember vividly when he hit career home run number 300. I think you were there as well. It was when he was with Detroit. He was a kind of a newbie then with the Tigers. It happened at Target Field against Minnesota. We went in the locker room to try to talk to him afterwards, and the first thing I saw was Justin Verlander come up and give him an expensive bottle of champagne. Torrey already had connected with the Tigers and everyone in that room, and that's the kind of guy he is. And now he's with the Los Angeles Angels in their front office as an assistant GM. I think the Twins really missed the boat by not keeping him in Minnesota.
No doubt. They should have somehow figured out a way to keep Torrey Hunter in the fold. Speaking about in the fold with the Twins, who's going to pay for those folds now? Are they any closer now to having an owner than we were a week ago?
Yeah, well, I don't really know. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors. We know the team is on the blocks. The poll ads have put them up for sale. They've got to get an offer they like, and then of course, if they decide they want to sell it to somebody like you, then MLB comes in. You're going to get vetted. There's going to be a whole process.
That would take about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're out. But yeah, what are they going to do? Who's made a bid? I haven't seen a lot of information come out. I know, as you do, that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry want the Timberwolves. Now that thing's hitting snags. It's in court, right?
Yeah.
Literally in court, not on the court. So, well, maybe A-Rod should pivot. If they really have Michael Bloomberg money, he's a multi-billionaire, go buy the Minnesota
Exactly.
Twins. A-Rod knows baseball,
Yeah.
and he's played it at the highest level in New York City where you're under a microscope all the time. I think they'd be great for the Twins.
Yeah, well, money, that would help the Minnesota Twins situation. All right, we're back with more here on 10,000 Takes with Takes of the Day. Don't go away. You won't want to miss it.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K Takes as we wrap up yet another episode on television. Big shout out to the viewers up and down the I-35 corridor from the Twin Cities to the Twin Ports. They're going to find out what your mood is this week.
Yes.
You angry? Happy? In the middle?
Probably something in the middle, I would say. Well, this world is all about giving second chances, right? Well, how about this one? Former Minnesota Golden Gopher head football coach Tim Brewster is getting a second chance. No, not here in Minneapolis, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, the University of Charlotte, the 49ers have hired him as an interim head coach to lead their football program for the last 2 games of the season. They fired head coach Biff Poggi earlier this week. And Biff went 6-16 in his 2 years at the helm of that program. So they bring in a guy that was 15-36 for the Gophers. By the way, 6-21 in the Big Ten was Tim Brewster. And boy, I tell you, Tim Brewster, talk about a guy that could whip up the old wind song. He could talk his way into and out of anything, but he is going to be moving from tight ends coach to head coach for the last couple games of the season for the Charlotte 49ers. By the way, this is his 8th team he has been with as an assistant coach since leaving Minnesota.
He's the definition of a coach.
Look out, PJ!
Yeah, vagabond. Let's check out that mood meter, and he's right in the middle, sarcastic Sam.
Yeah.
Throwing shade on Tim's new gig.
Yeah, PJ better be careful.
Yeah.
Brewster's waiting in the wings.
PJ needs to focus on Penn State and Wisconsin.
Yes.
All right, well, my take of the day, hey, Major League Baseball, you do have an optics issue when it comes to the Athletics franchise and now the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, because of Hurricane Milton, we all know, are going to play in Tampa at George Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the New York Yankees. Capacity 11,000.
That's all they need.
Yeah, probably. And then the A's, of course, made the stupid decision to leave Oakland on their way to Vegas, making a pit stop in Sacramento. They're going to be at a minor league ballpark. And they're not even going to use the name Sacramento in the logo. If I'm the mayor of Sacramento, I'm protesting. I want SAC on the uniform, on the cap, whatever. If you're going to come into my town, then I want publicity for it. But the bottom line is Major League Baseball, multi-billion-dollar industry, has 2 of its teams playing in minor league venues, the Rays and the A's.
A disaster.
It really is comical. Now, from the Rays standpoint, you can't blame Mother Nature. Hurricane Milton ripped the roof off of Tropicana Field. But from the A's standpoint, they have a buffoon for an owner. And on that note, we got to go. Thanks for tuning in. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.